Hello, hello, everyone. Let's see, stream details on all channels, Midday Muster. Yes, okay. So it's Cassandra Williamson, and I am in the middle of the street. Hold on a minute. Let me turn the camera around. Got to find the turnaround button. Live. Welcome. Okay. Back triple camera. Okay. Okay, everyone. Welcome to the show. This is Cassandra Williamson. I'm coming to you live from downtown Williamson, West Virginia. I'm looking at the back of my car. But here we are, Mingo County Courthouse Bank. This is the main street right here, folks. Main Street. And I am walking around the town. This town was built in like 1895, or at least incorporated around the same time the county was incorporated. But anyway, here we are. Mountaineer Parking, Hotel, Chamber of Commerce. And this thing is so beat up you can't really read it. But Williamson and Mingo County, West Virginia, Tug Valley Chamber of Commerce, Chief Mingo, right there, of the Mingo tribe of Indians. Of course, that's not what he looked like, if you didn't know that. Chief Mingo. All right, let's see what it says. There you go. So here we are. So the reason I'm here is just because I'm out doing some things and I wanted to capture the city a little bit, the town. This is the county seat for Mingo County, West Virginia. And there's a lot going on here, as you can tell. The great metropolitan area of Williamson, West Virginia. Dandy's Restaurant, live bar. It's a live band and bar. Chamber of Commerce again. Let's see. There's not a whole heck of a lot here, really, really. Honestly, it's just courthouse, lawyers, and bars. And then it's been taken over basically by all the ATVs, the off-road vehicles. People come in to get on the trails around here and enjoy their time, and it's really good for that. There's a lot of stuff going on around here for that. So I'm walking down Second Avenue in Williamson, West Virginia, just so you know where I am, directly in front of Mingo County Courthouse. So this used to be the First National Bank. Used to be a place called Hobbs Five and Dime Store, and then over there, Mountaineer Parking location, that was formerly Murphy's and department store, stuff like that. This place has really changed a lot. I think one of the biggest things here, one, you've got lawyers, like I said before, lawyers, banks, bars, and courts. And we do have a Veterans Memorial right here, erected by Ernest R. Taylor Jr., DAV Chapter 17. And you can look down towards that direction. You can see where the trains are located. Here's one of the frequent things in the area, trucks. So back in the back there's a flood wall. Okay. And look, if you're looking to get into some trail systems and things, this is the place to be. This is the place to be. It's in the mountains of southern West Virginia. That direction across the flood wall there, over there on that mountain, that's Kentucky. There's a river between the two. It's Tug River. And then up the up on top of the hill, let's see if we can see it. That's where I was born many decades ago. Yeah, that old building on top of the hill up in there, that old building, well, used to be a hospital up there, Williamson Memorial Hospital up on top of the hill. It's no longer there. There's a newer one that's built around the mountain and up on the further up the hill. So this is what you get downtown. Like I said before, A lot of stuff to do with bars, lawyers, and courts, and you know those kind of things. So anyway, one of the things I wanted to talk about today are some of the things that are happening to trans people across the country right now, and there's a lot of it going on. But if you think that that's only just about trans people, well, I'm going to reinforce what Aaron Reed has been saying repeatedly, and I've been saying for a number of years now. It's never been about protecting the kids, folks. If you think that's the case, then you haven't been paying attention. They've wanted to disenfranchise LGBT people for more than 75 years. They don't think that they have a right to exist publicly anywhere. They would love to see us all put up in some kind of mental institution. But you know how that goes. We'll know what happens with all of that, and we'll find out. But life goes on, right? So you have to find ways to sustain yourself and survive and thrive, even in the midst of the hardest of times. There's nothing guaranteed anymore for protections or rights or life, liberty or freedom for a good percentage of Americans these days because they don't think you have a right to live freely. So that's where we are. And I'll tell you, right here in this place where I was born 66 years ago, you know, life goes on too. And rarely, if ever, I mean, I don't have a slightest problem around here with anybody. There's, I mean, most people are pretty nice, pretty good people for the most part. So we just keep on going and moving along. Do the best you can where you are. Make the best impact where you are, where you live, work, and play. We know that in many states that they are coming after every single person in the LGBT community. And if you're a gay person or a lesbian person and you don't think that that applies to you, that what's going on is just applicable to the trans community in the United States, well, you have got another thing coming because they're not stopping with just that. And if you know anything at all about the history of rights and freedoms and civil rights in this country, then you know for a fact that what you have gained so far will be lost. It's just the way it is. They don't want us around. So how do you overcome that? What do you do to fight back against that? Well, the first thing you got to do is realize that most people are pretty good people for the most part. So we don't really spend a lot of time dwelling on all of that. We let life go on and people live their lives and be you as authentically as you possibly can and safely, and you know and just understand what's coming. I've been trying to tell you that for a number of years now to get people on board with the idea that they're not stopping, folks, and they're not stopping with just a few little things along the way. They're not stopping with trans kids. We know that. They went after the teenagers. They went after the early 20 somethings. We know they're going after the entire population in many states. They're going after marriage equality in all kinds of states right now. And they're trying to rush this stuff up to the Supreme Court to affect change. But we know that's who they are. We know that's what they want. So what you have to do is live your life without being a butthole about it. Okay? That's the challenge, though, that we have, right? It's really difficult for some of our in our community to get their head out of the sand, to get their head out of the echo chamber, and try to live their lives in a way that reflects respect for everyone and not just yourself. Stop thinking of yourself and start thinking more holistically of what your impact is on others in the community, on the country as a whole. I mean, that's where you have to go with this. We know that they're going after trans elders. We know that that's coming. We know they won't stop with that. They're going to go after everything they can get their hands on. So don't expect them just to back off every time, whenever they lose one thing, be prepared for them to go even further the next time around. Just be prepared because each piece of legislation is a stepping stone to where they want to be. And we know that too. I've been following these people around the country, and it's just asinine. I've been watching it for years now. States and places like Missouri and Alabama, where I've been to the state houses and observed how they're behaving. They'll do one thing one year and then turn right around and strengthen it the next year. They'll make it more than it ever was. I got to get my pants pulled up. I'm losing my undies here. My stuff's falling off. Anyway, so when I was in Missouri, they wanted to go after trans kids and wanted to protect trans kids, as they said. But I knew then that was just a gateway. It was just I call it a gateway drug. They can get one thing in, get their foot in one thing. You got to stop them at the earliest possible opportunity from advancing these things because they will go further the next legislative session every time. Every time. Missouri did it. Alabama tried to pull a fast one and then did it anyway. Alabama put two bills in that were almost identical. One time, it's been a number of years back, put two bills in that were identical. They had a public debate on the first one. And then when I confronted them about, they backed down and said, we're not going to do it now. We're not going to do that now. We're not going to go after the trans kids and bathrooms and all that kind of stuff. Right now, we're not going to do it. You won. That's basically what I was told by a representative by the name of Pringle from down in Mobile. Pringle told me, Chris Pringle, of all names, basically told me that, don't worry about it. You won this one. And then I asked the big question. I said, so what about the other bill? The one that's identical to this one? He said, well, you've won. Don't worry about it. 2 hours later, I get a call from my friends in Montgomery after I'd left the State House and said, well, Pringle is submitting the other bill. They're not going to have a public hearing since he already had this one. And they're just going to go ahead and take care of ramming this one through next Thursday. So I showed up down there and said, Chris, I got in Chris's face. I said, Chris, you lied to me. You said not to worry if this thing was not going to come back up, and you did it anyway. And he said, oh, that's just politics. And I said, what? You lied to me, Chris. And you don't freaking lie to a Marine. And I hope he lost every race he had after that, but I know he didn't. He ran for Congress, but he didn't get in that. So you can't let up on these people who are putting in these bills because it's a gateway to the next step. And sometimes they use subterfuge and go in and say, yeah, we're going to do it this way now. Bring the same thing back up 1 week later, different with a different bill number. They're very sly and very slick, they think. But it takes people observing every step and every action that they do. It didn't stop anything. It didn't have an impact at all on the outcome of that because the bill was passed and the governor signed off on it. But the thing is, Representative Pringle lied to me to my face, and I told him that. I said, you lied to a Marine there, Chris. Come on. But it didn't help. It didn't change anything. Because what's happening is the narrative is being controlled by those who have much more, who are capable of much greater long-term thinking than we are, apparently. They think down the road 50 years. Case in point, Roe v. Wade. They've been thinking about rolling back every protection and every civil right for LGBT people since at least the 50s, the 1950s, when they kicked out all the lesbians and gays out of the federal government under the Lavender Scare. I mean, this stuff is not new. It's been a religious ideology for them for at least that long. And yet we think we can have an impact on it. It's a case by case basis or whatever. Well, you have to fight. You can't just let them, you can't roll over and do nothing. You got to point a light out on all this stuff, shine a light on it and say, hey, look, this is wrong. It's wrong what you're doing. You're going after a group of Americans simply because you don't like who they are, how they love, or what they look like. And that goes against everything that is American, everything that our Constitution represents, everything in the world that has to do with civility and humanity and respect for others. All those things we were taught, yeah, they don't care. They claim it's a biblical thing for them, but it's not. Well, it is sort of, but it's a perverted version of it. It's a perverted version of the gospel of Christ. And you know that. You can read the Beatitudes in the first four chapters of the New Testament. You'll find out what they spend more time doing. So it wasn't he didn't kick out people because he didn't like them. Jesus didn't do that. He did go after the money changers in the temple, and that one gets used a lot. But that's nowhere near the same scenario as him saying to a streetwalker, as we call him today, maybe, or a whore that we call him. He hasn't told them, he hasn't told the lepers or any of those people not to hang around him, not to be part of who he is or what he believes. Never once did he say that. Never once did he say that. He went and helped them, talked with them, befriended them, became friends, and associated with them because those were the people that he could show love to and explain what God was really all about. That's what that was all about, folks. That's the Beatitudes. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Whether you believe or not, doesn't matter. A lot of people in the country do. But we have a perverted version of it going on right now. There's the nationalism version that claims to have absolute authority and control over the entire country. We just can't have that. So we know that, and they don't care though. You got people like Mad Walsh, the blogger in the blogosphere over there, who goes around and he tells you exactly who he is, folks. All you have to do is go on his Twitter profile, and you will see he calls himself a theocratic fascist. What does he mean by that? He believes that his Christianity, his version of Christianity, has a right and responsibility to subordinate the whole of the government to his views. That's theocratic fascism. That's who Walsh is. That's who Christopher Rufo is. That's who these people are running our government right now. That's who Pete Hegseth is. Pete brought in over the weekend, he brought in somebody to lead his first Pentagon level prayer meeting. He's going to have them once a month with a different pastor, a different leader, church leader. But the first one was the pastor from his little church down in Tennessee, an avowed Christian nationalist who has the support of this other person as part of this community of faith. That's called, it's more than just Christian nationalism. It's it's pretty dangerous stuff, folks. But he brought that pastor in to lead the first prayer service at the Pentagon. They're rolling this stuff in. It's coming from Kevin Roberts, the Heritage Foundation. It's coming from all these people in power of government right now, from Paula White in the White House to everybody else. They believe they have a right and responsibility to absolutely control the government. And they believe they don't have to be the ones in the government to do it. So that's where we are. As for me, I'm standing down here in the middle of Williamson, West Virginia, going around and around and around, just walking around in a circle pretty much. But I walked down one block and up the other. And it's changed a lot since the days I was here, decades ago, it seemed like. So, I mean, I think that used to be a restaurant there. There was a barber shop over there, it still is. At one point, there was Let me see, Army Navy store right there, right there. That's like decades ago. Around the corner. It was up on 3rd Avenue, but you could get in right here on this corner here, near where the barber shop's at. So here we are, folks. Williamson, West Virginia. County seat for Mingo County. Have a great one. See you this evening at 6.